Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
It's Christmas Day, y'all. It's a beautiful day. The sun is shining. It's about 40 degrees out there, so we can thaw out after a couple days of freezing temperature. I've never lived north of Houston, Texas. Now, I like to visit cold places. I like to snow ski and hike in mountains. Last February, I was ice skating in Chicago outside and in the Upper Peninsula of Wisconsin, thanks to my friend Fran for that trip to pond hockey. But if you know the city, I've actually never lived north of 43rd Street. And I mostly grew up here, and when we had days of snow or ice or freezing, it was fantastic as a kid. You wake up and there's frost on the rooftops, the grass is crunchy with ice, it's like, we don't experience that hardly ever. You leave a bowl of water in the backyard, and in the morning you're poking it with a stick, seeing, is it frozen? Is it really, how deep? How deep is the ice? Okay, so I did that Thursday. I still do that. Yeah, left a bucket of water out in the backyard. Friday morning, I'm looking at it. It was frozen solid. There was only about that much water, but it was solid. So what I'm inviting you to is to remember that wonder, that joy, that awe, that discovery of being a kid, learning about the world, observing, testing, experimenting, poking things with a stick, for better or worse. There's a first line of a novel, very famous first line. It's 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, a Colombian author. So the line goes, many years later, as he faced the firing squad, Colonel Aureliano Buendia was to remember that distant afternoon when his father took him to discover ice. Do you remember learning about water? It's liquid, we drink it, we bathe in it, we swim in it, and then sometimes it's solid like a rock. And then it can turn to vapor and disappear. The water goes up into the clouds and then it comes back again. This is amazing. What an amazing world we live in. So again, just inviting you into that wonder, the magic of the season. Now, our ancestors were, of course, a lot more connected with the natural world than we are. We tend to live indoors, looking at our screens. But our ancestors had to be attuned to the natural world to survive. So they were attuned to the sky and the stars and the seasons and all of that. On Wednesday night, we had this incredible event, Return of the Light, brought to us by our multi-talented David York. It was in the pyramid. It was a solstice celebration of the winter solstice. And what I like about that is it does remind us of that changes of the season and why the sky was important and how our ancestors were tuned to it. And today, we don't see a lot of stars in Houston, but you can do this with the weather app on your phone. As it goes from summer into fall, into December, just check the time of sunset. And you'll see every day going into fall, the sunset is a minute earlier, a minute earlier, a minute earlier, a minute earlier, until the solstice. And then that changes. And then the sun sets a minute later, a minute later, a minute later, until we enjoy those long days of summer, lots of sunlight. So this is not an accident that we celebrate Jesus' birth at this time of year. Jesus didn't have a birth certificate. We don't know. We've never seen, nobody's ever seen a birth certificate for Jesus. We don't really know what day or time or where he was born. But it makes sense that we celebrate his birth at this time of year because people were already celebrating the return of the light. They were already celebrating the solstice, the rebirth, the renewal, that time when the days get longer. And a lot of Christianity was overlayered with what the pagans were already doing. Now, when I was growing up, the word pagan was kind of a derogatory word. You know, it was kind of pejorative, kind of like not nice things. But we can reclaim that word. It just means pre-Christian, what the pre-Christian time, and people connected to the earth. I'm actually involved with the Parliament of the World's Religions, and there's a pagan contingent. You can go to pagan workshops. There's pagans on the board of the Parliament of the World's Religions because that is a world religion, what we recall of that, what people remember and honor of that. So it makes sense that we celebrate the birth of Jesus, bringing light into the world, bringing that renewal, bringing that rebirth at this time of year. So what is light? Light is revelatory. Light is revealing. Light allows for the operation of seeing. Have you ever been in some place really, really dark where there's no light? And that's why we say, you can't see your hand in front of your face. Have you ever been in some place completely dark and there's a tiny pinhole of light? Your eye is immediately drawn to that tiny pinhole of light or any amount of light that you see. So light allows for us to see. Now, there's two kinds of light that we're going to talk about, and one, of course, is natural light, light in the nature world, sunlight, moonlight, starlight, and light that human beings produce. And as humanity, we've gotten so much better at producing light. Do you remember, if you're of a certain age, you remember those old flashlights? Really big flashlights. You had to put these giant D batteries, like a whole bunch of D batteries, and they got really heavy. And then you flip the switch, and it's kind of got some light, kind of diffuse, scattered. And it seems like it doesn't last very long. The light just gets narrower and narrower, and it gets yellow, and it's just really heavy flashlight. Well, now you can have a little flashlight on your keychain. You have a flashlight on your phone. You have these LED, these bright lights. They're rechargeable. They can shine all the way across the field or the water. So we've become more effective with producing light as human beings. Now, the other kind of light is conscious light. This is light that illuminates the inner darkness. And conscious light is a term that was used by Harold W. Percival. He was a theosophist who was born in 1868, and he wrote a lot of books here in America. Conscious light reveals relationships and experiences. It reveals that oneness is in operation in this universe through us as us. Conscious light is installed in our hearts like a flame. And when we're conscious of something, the light reveals it so that we can know it, we can understand it, we can be aware of it. Are we getting more effective at revealing the conscious light? I think we are. I believe in the progression of humanity. I believe in the progression of consciousness. I think that's why we're here. We're getting more effective at revealing the conscious light. And as we do that, we become more effective human beings. So that's what Jesus did for us. He brought more light into the world. He's our way shower. He showed us how to bring more light and to be a more effective human being. He's our great example, not the great exception, the great example. Jesus wasn't the only light. He said that we are. He said, you are the light of the world. You are the light of the world, Matthew 5:14. So what is the job of an awakened being? We see Jesus as an awakened being, one of the awakened beings. What is their job? To bring more light and awareness. Light accumulates with people who have great integrity. And by integrity, I mean that state of being whole and undivided. And I also mean honesty and having high moral principles. But you know this when you're wanting to be around somebody who's positive, when somebody is unfragmented, when they're whole, when they're undivided, that's attractive. We want to be around people like that, to be uplifted. We're drawn to people who are fulfilled. So awakened beings realize that they have one job, and that job is to move light through the systems in the universe. We move light through the space, through the spaces that we occupy. So this is our mission, if we choose to accept it, to take on this task of moving light through the system. So how do we do that? We do that by thinking. We do that by focusing our conscious awareness. And we know that banal, nonsense, noise, ineffective speaking, idle chatter, gossip has little or no positive effect on the energy in the space. When our energy is scattered and incoherent, we're like that old flashlight, just barely making any kind of useful light, going dim, getting smaller, turning yellow. So in contrast, when we are congruent, consistent, and coherent, then we're like a laser beam. And laser beams produce a lot of results in this world. Laser beams are used for engraving, cutting, drilling, welding, scanning, measuring, printing, and reading and writing data. We can be like that. We can be effective with our action, with our thoughts. And that's why we do spiritual practices. We meditate, or you walk in labyrinths, take classes, pray. We're using our spiritual gifts, strengthening our spiritual muscles, training our thoughts so that we are conscious and consciously aware. So here's an example, blessings. Blessings are operations of the universe that move through us. A blessing is an operation of conscious light. When we give or receive a blessing, we're focusing light and moving light through the system of this universe. And we're consciously engaging in an activity. Can you imagine when you bless food that you're making more conscious light available in that food? A blessing is anything that brings us into greater awareness of source, oneness, eternal consciousness. The purpose of a blessing is to increase our capacity so that we can be of service. Our blessings allow us to be a blessing so that we may serve the world. To serve properly, we have to be in condition so that light moves through us. So how do we do that? We release guilt, blame, shame, anger, all the heavy obstacles. Try to become more light, as in more buoyant, and more illumined, more illuminating. And this is from the work I'm doing with a teacher named Nathaniel Newby, a forthcoming book called Spiritual River Guide, A Handbook of Being. And Linda Starr is a collaborator in this work. Appreciate her. So here is a prayer that I think about, I chant about. It's just one line from a prayer. It's from a book called What is Light Body? And it goes, "The light of my own being shines upon my path." The light of my own being shines upon my path. And what if this is true? There's some days when our light is weak, scattered, diffuse, incoherent, or when we feel like our light is getting dim. And if that's you, or when that's you, reach out. Seek help. Find somebody who can listen effectively. Listening is a skill. It can be learned. It can be improved on. Listen to music that's uplifting. I've been listening to the song from Dear Evan Hansen. Beautiful song, "You Will Be Found." You will be found. The words go, "Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, because you'll reach up and you'll rise again. You will be found." My niece's high school choir did this song at a concert. It was the closing number, so all the choirs were involved, and the high schoolers were coming down the aisles, the sides of the aisles, and the audience was surrounded with this music, with this beautiful song. There's things like that out there. I'm hopeful about 2023. We've made it this far. We've been through some things. And think about all that our ancestors went through so that we could be here today. Think about all they endured so that we are here. We can be the change. We can bring more light into the world. We are called. We are chosen. We are all called, chosen, saying yes. So get connected. Find your tribe. This is a place of action. Unity of Houston is a place of action. We feed people through the food bank. We have meditations. We have spiritual enrichment and education classes. We gather together. We share. We grow. We learn. We progress together. And we're glad you're here. You're part of this activity. Let's take this into prayer. We know that there is one light, one love, one spirit, one eternal consciousness, and that we connect. As a human being, as a divine being, we are connected with the all that is. So we say yes to letting our light shine a little brighter, clearing away anything that needs to be cleared so that we can stand in integrity and wholeness, in the fullness of who we are, shining this light out for others. We say yes to being the change, to realizing the newness that is springing forth, the possibilities, the opportunities. So we know that we are not stuck in the past. We are not stuck on a wheel revolving. We are in a spiral. We are continuing to progress, continuing to spiral into more being, more becoming, more belonging, more of who we truly came here to be. And so we bless ourselves, we bless our families, our loved ones, our coworkers, our neighbors. We bless the people who challenge us because they call us to see what we don't want to see, to realize what we don't want to realize, revealing light so that we can become even more clear, even more pure, even more focused, believing in the love, in the light, in the joy of who we are and of all that is in this amazing, beautiful universe, planet Earth. I am, you are, and so it is. Amen.
Watching this message today, I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.